Hats are hedonism. You chose hats. Sorry, bud.
Hats are hedonism.
I
That'll
didn't
be a new
say.
segment on your show. Hats are hedonism.
I didn't say hats or
Hats are
darts.
hedonism. In this game, they definitely chose hedonism.
No, I chose darts, man.
Oh,
Freaking Naked Snake is like every other scene. He's hacking a cigar back.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. And no one's wearing a hat, really.
Oh my god. Okay, I'll wear a bandana. How's that? Moving forward.
I'd be in full support of that, actually. That'd be great.
Yeah, bro. I mean, we grew up in an era where that was normalized, so it's okay.
Yeah. Well, in the '90s, everyone was rocking bandanas.
Yeah, dude.
I don't remember.
Yeah, but it can't be like the one that you cover your whole head with, right? Like, it's got to just be the one that goes around and gets tied up at the back.
And it also has to be like 15 feet long to blow in the
Yeah,
wind.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, good. Okay.
Yeah.
We're on the same page.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
that's
Next time I see you guys, I'll have a super long gray bandana. All right.
Eye patch, too. You need the eye patch.
I know I'm not losing an eye for this bit. No.
You need to lose the eye. Just tell me. Just wear the eye patch.
It still blocks your vision. I mean, like I said, I'm not sacrificing an eye for this bit.
And then switch exclusively to cigars, and you're pretty much there.
Ugh, no. I hate cigars. I'm not doing it. I can never be Snake just because I hate cigars.
Well, you'll be solid, Steve. It'll be worth it.
Solid Steve.
That's what the ladies call me, Simon. On that note. This is All Games Go to Heaven, episode 15, Metal Gear Solid Delta. Welcome to another episode of All Games Go to Heaven, episode 15. We're
Hi.
joined as always by Mike. I'm Steve, and we have the illustrious Simon with us once again because I think this game warranted 3 opinions instead of 2.
I think it's still only going to have 2 opinions, to be fair.
Well,
Oh,
we were talking
You
about
don't
that,
know that.
before the call. We have our suspicions on how you feel, but we'll see if we're right or wrong.
Simon fully knows. I told him at sushi, so he knows.
No, you told me a small part of where you're at, and I
Yeah,
told you to
yeah,
stop
yeah.
talking. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. Shut up. Keep it fresh. Shut up. Shut your face.
You guys are wasting all the good material at sushi. But on that note, so we're talking about Metal Gear Solid 3, Snake Eater. Mike and I played the recently released remake, or not remake, I should say remaster, because it's extremely, maybe to a fault, faithful to the original. And Simon played the PS2 version, which was Snake Eater. So we got Delta for Mike and I, and then Snake Eater for Simon. We've gone from 2004 to 2025 for the same game, which I played it back when it came out. I never thought we'd get something like this. Was kind of cautiously optimistic when we started seeing trailers, and I mean, it looks great, plays great, in my opinion. Like I was super stoked when I finally sort of bit the bullet and got it, and I loved every second of it.
Yeah, and I mean, I was very optimistic when I found out it was a 1-for-1. Everyone was calling it that, and that was a good sign because, nowadays everyone wants to make a remaster, but change all the things people complained about along the way. And then you get literally some of these programmers and designers going back after public opinion comes out and reintegrating the mistakes, right? Like that's because people want them so bad. It's part of the nostalgia.
Well, I feel like you're sort of hinting at like Oblivion there, where people want the jank.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. 100%.
I missed the marketing for Delta entirely. I didn't realize it was coming out until you guys said when it was coming out. It was totally coincidence that I was just interested in Metal Gear around the same time you guys were going to be doing this.
It worked out great. It was serendipitous.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Naturally.
I think most of the time we're your marketing department, Simon. I think we show you what exists in the world as you retreat back to your lair.
Well, there's no such thing as an E3 anymore. Everyone hosts their own little press junkets and puts out trailers.
Yeah.
And the only time I see new stuff is sometimes I'll see part of the Game Awards, and even then, half the time I have no idea what they're talking about or what they're showing, and it turns out to be a very highly anticipated game. So, yeah, there's like less places where I realize what's coming out. But I'm glad this worked out. I'm glad the timing synced up.
So, like I said, the original game came out in 2004. It was the third game of the Metal Gear Solid series made by the one and only Hideo Kojima. Just definitely nobody like that guy, I think, in gaming sphere, or I'd say in the creative space in general. I think we can all agree on that one. He's a unique creature. But he was let go from Konami after Metal Gear Solid 5, so he was not involved in this remaster. It was strictly Konami. But that being said, it is extremely faithful. There's a couple things that they did tweak that I think are for the better, like the quick access to the camouflage system, or like the cure menu, or like making calls on the codec, which is a mechanic in this game. Like having easier access to all those just sort of cuts down on the menuing, which I think was a great change. And it's just, the game just looks so good.
Yeah, I think back when this came out, we were all a little numb to accessing menuing for achieving a lot of things, because a lot of games you still had to go to the menu just to do basic things. Like especially if let's just say the game interface was very in depth, like that was the only option they had, was to make us go into the menu. I know you hate it, but it just got voted game of all time by a very small majority of people. But
Oh
Zelda
my
did that as
god.
well,
Oh
where you
my
had to
god.
access the in menu. So like there was a great example of a brilliant game that had already done that. So
I was hoping you were gonna bring that up in this podcast.
I
We
was
could
coming.
maybe have one
Coming.
episode where we don't talk about frickin' Zelda, but no. You could just let me have that, eh? And that one website's like sample size of a few hundred people voting Ocarina of Time is the best game of all time. Doesn't mean shit to me. I don't care. I don't fucking care. It's just 300 people can be stupid.
I hope one day there's like a stat that comes out that's like 5 million people voted on best game of all time, and you're like 5 million people can be stupid. Then 100 million. Then what if then the world, Steve?
5 million people is not even 1% of the population. I don't care.
Yeah, there it is. There it is. Yeah,
But-
there it is.
But so going into this, I think we have, there's me, who's sort of the Metal Gear Solid fanboy, played them all, and then there's you guys, Mike, if I remember correctly, you played a bit of Metal Gear Solid 1, and then you pussed out at the Psycho Mantis fight, and then Simon, you basically have never played a Metal Gear Solid game, you've just seen a bit.
Correct. Yep.
Okay, so what were you expecting going into this? I'll start with you, Simon.
Oh, I did play Death Stranding on you guys' recommendation before. So honestly, I was very lost on this. I know, like, obviously Metal Gear's got like a reputation, right? Like there's a huge amount of people who love this series, and it seems like everyone I've known who enjoys this series at all is very, very into it. It's like I don't have many people who are just kind of into Metal Gear. There's either people are huge fans of it or they're not.
Yeah.
At least from what I've seen. So
As evidenced by
yeah,
all this stuff.
right.
Like,
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly my point. So I really was kind of confused because like seeing what happened in Death Stranding, like I couldn't understand why there was such a following for this stranger, Mr. Kojima, and what he had done. And so I had pretty high hopes that it would kind of redeem everything else that I didn't like about Death Stranding, and I would see what people were going for, and also because I was playing the PS2 version, I was kind of excited to see it, but I figured there would be like limitations on a 20-year-old game and where that was coming from. So honestly, it was kind of middle of the road. Like I didn't know what to expect. I knew there was going to be some weird, crazy narrative stuff that would, just kind of take over at one point, and was not disappointed on that front. But I kind of approached it with this attitude of I'm just going to go for the ride. I'm going to see what happens, and I'm also not going to try and get too committed into the intricacies of what's going on, because I did that with Death Stranding and I got burned very badly on that.
But I think it's safe to say getting into the intricacies of this one is like way more approachable and less convoluted than Death Stranding by like a wide margin.
Oh, I wouldn't say it's less convoluted. I think there's just plenty of weird, convoluted craziness that's happening, but there's kind of a payoff for a lot of the stuff that's in here, and there's like a logic where the stuff connects and is somehow, not all of it, but somehow relevant to like the overall story. Whereas, and I don't want to just rag on Death Stranding, but like that had nothing. That they threw like baby out with the bathwater by the end of that game. That was going nowhere. It went nowhere. It landed. It didn't land. Nothing. But this actually, there was a story told. There was a beginning, a middle, an end. And that already, surpassed my expectations based on the previous Kojima writing that I'd encountered.
I'd argue you're very far from the end. I mean, there's like two PSP games that come after that, and then Metal Gear Solid 5, like 3 is a prequel, which was, there was Metal Gear Solid 1 where you play as Solid Snake, Metal Gear Solid 2 where, still kind of Solid Snake, and then we jump back in time after the however many years there was between 2 and 3, and then there's Metal Gear Solid 4, which is the real end of the story, and then we got 5, which is again a prequel, but there's also the 2 PSP games which come after 3. So on its own, like I'd say 3 definitely works. There is it is sort of self-contained, but there is more stuff after that, but you can just play 3 and be okay. Having played 1 and 2 gives you like a bit more context, and it's cool seeing, you're playing as the guy that you keep hearing about so much in 1 and 2. But again, you can just play 3 and I think have a good experience. That being said, how did you feel about it, Mike? Going into it, what were you thinking?
Well, I mean, I just been holding on to this joke. They literally did throw the baby out with the bathwater in Death Stranding. Literally, that's how the game ends, I think. But that was also my only experience playing. I had to. But
you write
that
for
was
a living.
also my yeah. Hey, zing. Hey, man. But Death Stranding was also my only experience going into Kojima. I, unlike Simon, wasn't as offended by the story of Death Stranding. It definitely was out there and it had like no resolution. I mean, going into Metal Gear Solid 3, the best way I could describe it is, it's a wild book that you actually close at the end versus like Death Stranding is maybe something that starts as a book and then thinks it's a painting halfway through and like starts spiraling out every direction, has like no real, you don't even know what form of art you're looking at the end. But yeah, I don't know. The gameplay was so brilliant itself in Death Stranding. I was a huge fan that I was sold on pretty much anything Kojima was going to do because I knew the gameplay would be fantastic, even if I didn't like the story. But going into it, I mean, this was probably hyped to the max compared to everything else. Every time somebody spoke about Metal Gear Solid to me, it was like, oh, number 3, greatest game of all time. Number 3, best Kojima ever written. Like Kojima peak, this. So, it was interesting because I did have a prejudice going into it. And I don't know if that, we'll talk about later whether that was good or bad for me. And whether maybe that was overhyped. But, I had played a bit of number 1. And what I played of number 1, I really liked. It's not so much I pushed out. I had to literally give back the PlayStation I had.
That's not what you said before. That's not what you said before.
I couldn't figure it out, and then I didn't want to go back to it, and I eventually had to give back the PlayStation I had. That was it in a nutshell. But if I had found a way to get past the Psycho Mantis fight, I don't know how you do it on computer, to be honest. Like, I don't know how you would do it on computer.
You shoot the statues, but that's not important.
You do what?
You shoot the statues in the room, but that's not important.
Okay, there you go.
There is another way other than switching the controller port.
Yeah. Well, at the time, I was told about the switching of the controllers thing, but I was enjoying every second of number 1. And number 3, in a large part, continues that legacy of a good spy drama that is very Kojima-esque. and very like like Soviet Union meets war-based espionage, and that's something really cool about that. I mean, the tone he created was fantastic, and I had a good idea of what the tone was because I'd watched people grow like playing this growing up. I had sat through on a huge amount of number two as a buddy of mine was playing it, played a chunk of number one, and then played all of Death Stranding. And I loved Death Stranding. Like I still want to go back and put in even more hours into it, despite the crazy, nonsensical story that, yeah, is completely off the rails. That's not why I play Kojima, but because the gameplay is brilliant and there's really some inspired ideas. And that's what I went into this with was just, this is supposed to be his GOAT game. This is supposed to be pinnacle Kojima. Everyone says it's the best Snake, the best Snake experience. So let's see where it goes.
It is 3 is widely regarded as the best of the Metal Gear Solid games, and I think I've said this to you guys before, but it's like where I think out of all of them, it's where Kojimaness is sort of the most reined in, and considering how many like kooky things there are in this game that's saying something. But if you compare the story of Death Stranding, which we seem to be talking about a lot right now, versus Metal Gear Solid 3, I think you put it rather eloquently where it's like, a book with a beginning, middle, and end versus a book that thinks it's a painting, that thinks it's, French or new art cinema, nouveau film or whatever.
Yeah.
And then just ends somewhere in the beginning, like, So
yeah,
it's really close to being my favorite. I love number 4, maybe because it's just like the ending of this like 10-year long journey that I was going on with Kojima. But 3 definitely is a lot of people's favorites and probably most people's favorites. Did the gameplay?
What was your experience during the time? Like when it came out as a Kojima fanboy, like you were actually following along. What was that experience then?
I mean, I was just hyped. Like, I
Yeah.
was a little late to the party. Like I played 1 after it had come out because I never had a PlayStation 1, so I don't remember how long after it was that it came out that I played that one, but I remember loving 1 after hearing about it for so long. And then I played 2, and I had the same reaction that everybody did back then, where I was pissed off that you had to play as Raiden. But when you go back and look at it now in hindsight, it's just Kojima being Kojima, where he's sort of breaking your expectations, and he's almost like with that story in that game, Raiden is almost like like an avatar for the person, and because it's like anybody can be Snake kind of thing is one of the things in Metal Gear Solid 2. But the story was building and building and building, and then they dropped this big thing at the end of like, we're going to get after the Patriots and stop them from sort of being these shadow government of the world. And then we had nothing for a few years, and then we get a trailer, and I think it was like an E3 trailer, which so like Simon said, we don't have anymore. You just have this guy in a mask and like all kinds of like crazy shit's going on, and then when there was that final reveal, you're like, oh my god, it's Snake, and like we're gonna be in the jungle like crazy. And then you play the game, and it's a prequel, like you're in the 1960s and you're playing as Big Boss, which is crazy. Like I was so exciting, and I like the first time playing it, I was hooked, like just edge of my seat the whole time. Like I loved the espionage spy story, the U.S. and the Soviets, and just like this stuff that's going on, so neither side can really know, and the world can't know. And if Snake doesn't pull off his mission, it's gonna mean like a third world war. Like I loved it all. It was great for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, here's a little aside. I think this will be entertaining. Simon, why don't you tell us about the story of Metal Gear Solid 3?
You want me to try and outline the basic plot?
Yeah. The way we usually do. I think this is going to be great.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know. So maybe you guys will correct me as we go. It'd be fun to see if we all have different stories for this.
We shouldn't.
We might. I don't know.
That's what I'm saying. This is going to be entertaining.
Yeah. So if I had to summarize it, right? So Big Boss, not yet Big Boss, but Big Boss gets called in. He's on this inaugural mission. They're going to test out this new Foxhound unit that's going in and collecting weapons on the ground, and they're supposed to be the most elite of the elite here. He gets in there. They think that there's a risk of some kind, and they send in. So, do you want me to say it like knowing what happens now at the end, or do you want me to say it as like what you think going in? Because it changes quite a bit. Like the last 2 hours of this game have recontextualized everything about what you were doing and who was doing what throughout
Well,
the
why don't you
game.
just
Do it
you
as it's
prep it as
presented.
if
Yeah.
As
yeah.
it's presented. All
Yeah.
right. So as it's presented, you land in, you find boss who, they are revealing to you you had like this 10-year relationship with, where she was training you. You guys developed CQC together, which is obviously the ultimate form of combat. So you go in, you find this scientist. He's designing the prequel to the Metal Gear. He's designing what's going to eventually become the tech for Metal Gear. And then you're betrayed by Boss and her merry band of X-Men there. She breaks your arm. She kicks. I mean, that didn't remind you of that. That was the first thing I thought
It
of. It's
did.
like
It
in
did.
X-Men 1 where like Magneto's in the sewer with just like the reject X-Men that have gone to his side. That's what I saw when Boss showed up, and there's uh, all her troops that were sitting there. As anyways,
The
they had their
Cobra
little weird
unit.
mutations and powers. Yes,
Yeah, one of
Cobra.
them is literally Toad from X-Men.
Yeah, well, the eye popped up. That's what made me think of it. I'm like,
Yeah.
all right, yeah. Anyways, so she breaks your arm, kicks you over the bridge. She launches a nuke. Well, she brings the nuke rather, and Vulcan launches the nuke, and she's framed for doing so under the Russian and American governments. And then you come back. Spend 4 days in the hospital when you should have been there for probably a year or two, having survived a nuclear blast. And then you are sent right back in there, and your mission is to go and find the scientist. Things develop. You find out Boss is on the other side. You're told that your ultimate mission is going to be to take her down as well. That's part of this trade of espionage with the president and the failing Russian leader who's losing on his side with this internal fight with Volgan's people. And then you progress through the mission. You're going to different areas. You're beating out everyone from Cobra Unit basically one by one as you go. There's some developments and secrets that are raised, but your mission morphs from getting the scientist to stopping Metal Gear to defeating Vulcan to defeating the boss and then being able to extract. That's going in. That's how I read that story. But like I say, last 2 hours completely recontextualizes a lot of people's roles and what everyone's doing, even way back from the opening sequences.
And Ocelot's
That was
there
good.
too.
He's there, but I can't explain anything about him aside from his
Yeah.
beautiful little calling noises. Yes, his meow as he goes.
Yeah.
Uh, within the story, he's just it's supposedly he's just a lackey on the first go around with his little elite units, the GNR or the GRN,
GRU.
GRU, the GRU. Yes, he's a more elite lackey, but you find out at the end he's got quite a big role to play.
He's an agent of chaos.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Does he meow in all the games?
No. So that's only in 3. but like him being in 3 was like for somebody that's played 1 and 2, like, and he's there in number 1. He's part of Liquid Snake's team that's taken over Shadow Moses. He shows up in number 2. He steals the new Metal Gear, and he's, being controlled by Liquid Snake's arm that he grafted onto himself after the Cyber Ninja cut up. And then you're playing Metal Gear Solid 3, and, it's a prequel. Like me personally, in my experience, I wasn't expecting to see him, but then you see a young, like 18, 19-year-old Ocelot, post Cold War in as part of this whole conspiracy, and like, that's how he even starts using a revolver, is because Snake freaking punks him when he's trying to do his gun tricks with like a semi-automatic pistol, and it's just like, oh my god, like it's Ocelot. Like it was so cool the first time.
And then you hear that meow.
Hey man, that's just Kojima-ness. The meow is
Yeah,
how he
I
calls
know.
his backup. I'm here for it.
Dude, that was the first big Kojima moment for me when I was playing this game. I was like, there was like it was pretty serious, like some crazy camera angles, and then I heard that meow, and I was like, whoa, what did I just hear? I was like, was that a mistake sound? Did something like go wrong in my headphones? And then I was like, then I heard it again. It's like, Like, it's just fuck, I can't even do it.
The really funny part is like I think the second time he does
Uh.
that when you're about to have like the face off on the cliff edge with him, you know, he meows, he calls all the troops, and then he's just like, "Don't interfere," because he wants to have a showdown. It's like, why'd you call them? If you don't want anybody to if you don't want anybody to interfere, like why even meow them over here? Just like let them chill wherever they were.
He does
He
that
wanted an
multiple
audience.
times.
Yeah.
He does that a lot. He brings all people in, and then he says, "Don't get involved." And there's kind of an explanation at the end, right, to figure out why he doesn't want other people getting involved. I enjoyed mostly the meowing throughout, the like finger push off, the whatever whenever he's just directing as if like that's my master stroke. Here you go, and all that contrast against in the ending where he's asking Snake his name. And he tells him, "I'm Snake, you're Ocelot," right? And then he says, "No, no, no, we're real men. I'm not really an Ocelot." Yes, he clarifies to him that.
And I'm not really a snake.
Yeah.
But part of I'm betting both of you guys missed this. So in all the cutscenes, you know how it will prompt you to hit a button so that you can look at something from Snake's POV as opposed to the cinematic camera, right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
It's usually breasts or...
It's usually
whenever
Ava's
he moves
breasts
around.
or like, you know, the binoculars. There are moments in the game where it doesn't tell you to do that, but you can still do that. So there's two really important ones. One is in the, the compulsory torture scene where you can see the boss do that to Ocelot.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah.
okay.
There's also another kind of funny one where, like, after Eva, you know, jumps her motorcycle off the mountain to go to the base, and then Ocelot's, like, you know, taunting her with the gun and everything, she does it to him. But at the very end of the game, when Snake is, you know, in the Oval Office and he's meeting the president and getting congratulated and he's saluting, if you hit the button, you'll see Ocelot at the window. He's there in the U.S. and he's like watching you, you know, get a medal in the president's office. And then as he walks away, you know, he fades into the back and gives you another one of those.
Oh, man. All right. Nice. Nice.
It's his move.
I like it.
Yeah. Yeah. Ocelot's a character.
He's in every single game. And at 4, it just gets even more epic with him.
Wow. Wow.
Also,
So he's like a consistent.
He's probably the most consistent through line of all the
crazy.
games. He's in 5, like, you know, which makes sense. He's a little bit older than he is.
Besides
in 3.
Big Boss.
I mean, Big Boss is like he's a concept, I guess, in 1 and 2. You know, he's the genetic material for Solid Snake and Liquid Snake, and then Solid as Snake. For all the snakes, he's who they were cloned from. And it's not until like 3 where you play him, and then also 5 where he's starting up his private military company, because he eventually leaves Fox and starts MSF.
So I explained what was like my beginner take as I played through without saying the stuff that I think. Like, can one of you guys go in and kind of try to explain what's really going on? Like, what's happening, but with the revelations towards the end of all the different positions of every one of the agents and who they're actually working for.
Are you looking at me, Mike? Is that you want me to do it?
Bro, I don't know how to answer that question. Like, I only know about the philosopher's legacy, and I only know about Eva Tatiana / girl / who knows what other name she goes by / boss / I don't even know what snake. I don't know which snake we're even using, dude. Like, I don't know. You just busted out like 5 snakes. Like, I'd like to know even what snake we're like. You're just like naked snake, liquid snake, solid snake, solid snake, snake.
Naked Snake is the OG. That's Big Boss. Before he was Big Boss, he was Naked Snake. And the reason they called him Snake, and the reason the mission, the second one, like after you have your arm broken and you recover, is called Operation Snake Eater is because the boss and her unit are the Cobra unit, so you're the Snake Eater. The original mission is called the Virtuous Mission, which is to get Sokolov, who was supposed to have been rescued 2 years ago, but he became a bargaining chip to end the Cold War, so he was given back to the Russians. So Major Zero, who's your sort of guy in the chair, sends you back in after all this time to try and rescue him to stop whatever project that he's working on and fulfill his word that he was gonna rescue him after having saved his family. So you get sent in. The boss, who Simon said was your mentor, was supposed to be giving you like mission support. And in the beginning of the game, it's kind of goofy because she's like, Snake, like, remember to hit the action button to climb a tree. And he's like, right, I forgot about that. There's all this kind of like ridiculous fourth wall breaking. But, as far as anybody knows, the boss, who's supposed to be, the mother of special forces, the greatest soldier to have ever lived, is on your side. So you sneak in behind enemy lines, you go to rescue Sokolov. In the process of doing that, you find out that the boss has defected to the Russians, specifically to this guy named Colonel Volgin, who is in this other faction that's trying to usurp the current, was it president of Russia? The president or
Khrushchev, yeah.
Yeah, Khrushchev.
Khrushchev.
So, she disarms you, beats you, takes Sokolov. Part of her, like, defecting present to Colonel Volgin are these 2 mini nukes called Davy Crockett's. And yeah, she, kicks you to the curb, tells you to leave. And then Volgin, because he's crazy, he shoots one of these mini nukes at the facility where Sokolov was, so that, he's trying to make it look like it was the U.S. nuking Russia to incite some more war and make Khrushchev look weak. So in the process of your recovery, the president of the United States and the president of Russia, they sort of talk and they say, hey, it wasn't me. And he's like, oh, yeah, sure, prove it. And to prove it, you again have to rescue Sokolov, who is the scientist, destroy the Shagohod, which is the early precursor of the Metal Gear that, so the series is famous for. But you also have to kill the boss to prove that the U.S. wasn't involved. So the game goes on and all this stuff happens. Ocelot's being Ocelot, like Simon said. You go through the Cobra unit. Eventually you beat Volgin. You beat the Shagohod. You meet this woman named Eva. She was supposed to be, or she's pretending to be your contact on the inside. And she does assist you along the way, but you find out at the end that she's not who she says she is. And then eventually you kill the boss. So you go back to the U.S. and you're a hero. You beat the boss. You stop the Third World War. You stop Metal Gear. But it turns out that Eva, for example, who was helping you and helped you escape, was actually an agent for the Chinese. It's at first you think she's an American agent, then she's like a Russian agent that's betraying the Russians, but it's actually she's a Chinese agent that's trying to get this thing called the Philosopher's Legacy, which is $100 billion that was accumulated in World War II by like the 3 biggest governments, China, Russia, and the US, through, like the war economy. That was her goal all along. She thinks she gets it from you at the end. Turns out it was a fake. And then she ends up on the run from China. You also learn from her. Go ahead, Mike.
I'd also argue that she doesn't even work for the Chinese. She's actually like working for she's like the last philosopher, because she's the granddaughter or whatever of the one of the last philosophers that was supplanted themselves in China.
No, that was the boss. Her dad was part of the philosophers.
That was boss. That was boss. That's what it was. Okay, that wasn't Eva.
The boss knew that the boss knew that Eva wasn't who she said she was because she saw Eva at one of the philosophers' like spy schools.
Right.
But she was working for the Chinese.
Fuck.
So yeah. So you kill the boss, you fulfill your mission, and then Eva leaves a recording for you that reveals that the boss never actually defected. Her mission in the beginning was to pretend to defect to Volgin to try and get the Philosopher's Legacy, this $100 billion for the US. But then when Volgin launched the nuke, it sort of complicated things. So her mission changed to get the Philosopher's Legacy, but also you have to die to prevent World War III. So she sacrifices herself and dies as like a villain, hated by everyone in the world except for Snake, because he's the only one that knows the truth. So that's why, at the end he goes to her grave and he salutes and he's crying, because only he knows that she's actually a hero, not this like villain that's just going to be not remembered in the history books. And even if she is mentioned, it's going to be as someone that's, human garbage.
And here I thought M. Night Shyamalan had some twists. Another writer quote for you. There you go.
Oh,
Man,
I had to say.
for what is supposed to be the most straightforward Metal Gear plot,
it's too
like
crazy.
this involves Ocelot's a triple agent, the boss is a double agent, I guess, and Eva's also a triple agent, not in the traditional sense, but because she's portrays 3 different governments at 3 different times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't even get into Ocelot. I forgot about that.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Ocelot's the... Well, go ahead. Yeah.
So
go ahead.
Ocelot was the U.S. defecting agent that you were supposed to meet initially. He's Adam, but he's just, he pretends to be a soldier for Volgin, but, he's always trying to kill you, but he's not really ever successfully killing you. And you find out at the end that, the Russians think he's working for them, but then he turns out he's working for the CIA, but he's not actually working for the CIA because he's working for the Philosophers. Like, he's another triple agent that's, he ends up like idolizing Snake. He loves Snake. And
Yeah.
in his own super weird backwards way was doing everything he could to make sure that the mission succeeded. Like when you're fighting Volgin at any point, when you're just in that arena, the two of you duking out, like he could have just shot you. But he's just like, no, fight like, he's like, fight like a man.
He gives you ammo. He throws down supplies to you.
Throws down your
he
gun.
He doesn't follow what Volgin says. He stands up to him. The first opportunity he gets, the very end, when he's got a chance to shoot you, he loads up the gun with a blank and then just dives out the side of the plane and says, off you go. It seems like and every chance he gets, I mean, going back, it made more sense when he would tell people, don't get involved, nobody else do anything. It's just him making sure that nobody else kills you, that your mission keeps going. Mm-hmm. Like it's interesting after the last couple hours of that game, looking back on all the early events. But that's what I mean when I say, like, this is supposed to be the most straightforward, almost self-contained. I know there's obviously ties to the rest of the series, but almost self-contained story for a Metal Gear game. And we're already talking about 4 different characters that have sworn allegiances to between 2 and 3 governments that you have to figure out on the fly going in with, in my case, like no background. I guess for everyone it's no background. It's a prequel. Nobody really knows where they're coming from.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you want to get deeper with that, even Volgin isn't really working for the Russians. He's working for himself. He's not working for the Russian government. It's everyone. Everyone's got 2 hats they're wearing. Yeah, his own faction. But during the Virtuous mission, Khrushchev, who's out of the picture, like we're not hearing this, but Khrushchev thinks Volgin is one of his guys.
Yeah, he betrays him, and the Americans are painting it as she's defected to the Russians. You're right; she's going to like a specific faction.
That's right. That's what I fucking mean, man. And on top of that, I was spinning so hard that you guys just I knew Ocelot was helping you. But I was spinning so hard by the end of the game, I forgot overall completely that you were even supposed to meet Adam. So when he says Adam on the fucking plane, you guys just I just remembered that now. I was so just there was so many other layers I was paying attention to that I was I didn't even give a shit.
Well, he says Adamovich, like he's Russian, and it's not until the post credits phone call of him calling the KGB and then the CIA where he's like, oh, nobody had any idea I was Adam. You son of a bitch, Ocelot. You son of a bitch. But that also... But hearing that at the end also recontextualizes everything he does in 1 and 2.
Okay.
Because in number 1, you think he's just, on Liquid Snake's crew trying to take over Shadow Moses. Number 2, maybe less so, but it definitely recontextualizes his part of Metal Gear Solid 1.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, thanks, teacher.
Yes.
So who the fuck is Liquid Snake?
Liquid Snake is Solid Snake's twin brother, who's the villain of Metal Gear Solid 1.
Okay, both of them are clones born out of Naked Snake.
I mean, not born out of, but made from his DNA, yeah.
Born out is a weird way to put it.
Born out, yeah,
Whatever.
it's a weird way to put it.
Okay, okay, crafted from his DNA, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then, okay, so Solid and Liquid are the two there. Naked Snake. Who else?
Solidus.
Who's Solidus?
Solidus Snake is the perfect clone of Big Boss. The Liquid and Solid, one got recessive genes and one got dominant genes, whereas Solidus is just a 1-to-1 clone.
Like, if you had to
What
guess,
game's he in?
hold on. What if you had to guess what his title was, or like what he does for work? What do you think?
That's such a weird way to ask that question.
Yep. You have to guess. What's his role? What's he do?
What's Solidus Snake's role in society on a daily basis?
Solidus Snake. Like, is this? Can I at least get one? Can I can I phone a friend just for like a partial clue? Does it have anything to do with his name?
No.
No.
Oh my god! What the heck? I don't know. He's a dentist.
No. No. He's
I got nothing.
He's the president of the United States.
Fuck. What game do you find that out in? What game do you find that out in?
Number 2.
So the president is also a clone.
Yeah.
Of Naked Snake.
Yeah. He's not the president by the time of Metal Gear Solid 2, but he was the president.
So how is this any less complicated than Death Stranding?
It just is. It just is.
Well, Death Stranding
Maybe it's
didn't
'cause-
have anything
maybe-
that makes sense.
We're talking about
maybe-
four.
maybe-
We're talking
Hold
about.
on, hold on,
No,
hold
no,
on.
you hold on. We're talking about
Simon.
4 games at once versus one
But
game.
that's what I was about to say. I was going to say, Simon, don't do it any justice, but by Death Stranding 4, it might all make sense. So screw you.
No.
No.
3 on its own. I played 3. I then went back and played number 2. I've watched most of 1, and I checked with Steve on the plot of 1 to make sure I didn't miss any big pieces. Each one of those, maybe not on their own, but 3 on its own starting, like there was a beginning, middle, end. It's not the end of the whole story, but there was an end to that story, right? Death Stranding had, like you said, had no beginning, middle, or end, and then it just kind of came out at the other end in whatever state it was. And this story, while it's crazy, there's an internal logic to it that I found supremely entertaining. And the idea that at some point,
Yes.
you are killing the boss as a favor to her, knowing that she was, not betrayed by her country, but set up to be able to take the fall for this, knowing that she is now perceived as a traitor, but truly she's a double agent going in and doing this for her country. There is an internal logic there that is extremely satisfying, as opposed to when you compare it to Death Stranding, where it's just nonsense, where they explain to you the story in the first 5 minutes of the game, and then they try and beat your head over it, and they think you're so dumb that unless they name the character after the thing that they do, you'll never understand.
Look, I don't disagree. I was just trying to bait the situation. I just wanted to bring us back to. I completely agree with you. I think this is at least on some form of rail. Death Stranding starts as a train and takes off and flies right away.
This is not meant to be a Death Stranding bashing podcast.
It's not. I love Death Stranding. I still it is a magical, amazing game to me.
Did the gameplay of Metal Gear Solid Delta, did that meet your expectation of what you were hoping for? Of, I guess, the bar that had been set by the Death Stranding gameplay?
Who do you want to answer first?
You're the one who.
Oh, me.
You're the one who set that expectation. Me and Simon hated the gameplay from Death Stranding.
I'd argue I preferred the gameplay from Death Stranding by a decent amount. I thought it was more fluid. I think, Metal Gear Solid, I was expecting maybe a little more fluidity. Um, yeah,
You
yeah. No,
have
I
to
mean, it didn't.
you have to keep in mind you're comparing like a reskinned PS2 game
I get
to
it.
like a modern game.
I get it. Look, overall in general, it's tough. Like I can't imagine Simon playing Metal Gear Solid 3 because the original version was closer to those tank controls kind of going through an area. I know it's not tank controls, but it's closer to it. So I can't imagine my gameplay experience. Like I have played Metal Gear Solid 1 and I was ready for that. So I was sort of in that flow, but then coming from Death Stranding, you know, I didn't want to compare too much, so I tried not to. But Death Stranding is a very fluid, awesome shooter for me. I love Death Stranding's shooter. I know, go wide eyed, Simon. I get it. I
Shooter?
saw the
The
look.
shooter,
What do you
yeah.
mean? What
I
shooter?
loved it.
Yeah, all
Dude,
15
I love.
minutes of that 40-hour game? You
No,
love those?
man.
Yeah.
Look, I freaking love Death Stranding and I love the gameplay. And it's hard for me because it is like, don't get me wrong, Metal Gear Solid 3 has amazing gameplay. Like the whole on the motorcycle running away from the Shagohod is one of the greatest moments in gaming I've experienced. Like it was brilliant. And like there's a lot of great moments and I'm glad I didn't have to stop and pull a James Bond and like have to go into first person to suddenly aim all the time. You know what I mean? Or what game am I thinking of? It's not James Bond, but there's a lot of games where it's a third person game, and then when you have to suddenly aim, I think Splinter Cell. When you have to aim, you have to go to first person. I think Splinter Cell 1 was like that. There's games I'm thinking of. I don't even know what I'm thinking of, but there are games I'm thinking
Yeah.
of that are like that. And I'm glad they didn't make me do that. There was a lot of great fluidity, but like again, I think if I played this back in the day, I would have been mind blown by the combat, But you're asking me coming from Death Stranding to MGS3, like no, of course it didn't touch it. There was a fluidity in Death Stranding to me.
I'm not saying was it better. I'm just saying did you enjoy it basically. But if you like the way that Death Stranding plays so much, if for some reason you can get Metal Gear Solid 5 cheap, that's where that gameplay came from. The Death Stranding's gameplay came
Yeah.
from Metal Gear Solid 5, and it has guns the whole time, as opposed to like Simon
Yeah.
kind of joked for 15 minutes in Death Stranding. Those games are very very close in the way that they move, and Metal Gear Solid 5 is an open world tactical espionage game versus Metal Gear Solid 1 to 4, which are linear.
Well, that is technically next for me, right? If I'm going sequentially.
Are you?
Without the without the PSP games or whatever.
Yeah, I have. Yeah, you can skip those. I'd say just watch a, you watch a video. I couldn't even. I played them. I couldn't even tell you what the hell happens. Like that just got deleted from my memory. But do you have any desire to continue your Metal Gear saga?
Yeah, I want to finish the story.
Oh, okay. I mean, I know Simon's on board. He's already looking for a way to play number 4, which I'm so stoked about.
Yeah, I'd love to figure that out, or just wait for the next Master Collection to hopefully contain it. But I guess we'll see. It's too bad that thing's kind of locked away.
Yeah, it is too bad. But how was the PS2 version for you?
I loved it. I thought it looked beautiful, honestly. Like there's a haziness and a fog to like the PS2 N64 era of games that like really hides a lot of like what would otherwise be like really obvious jagged sharp edges in other games. So I thought it actually pulled it off really well. Like when I looked at, do you remember the sequence with the mangrove trees and you have like the sun coming down and you're just walking through like the waist high river there?
Mm-hmm.
Like that was gorgeous looking. Obviously, when I saw some of you guys playing Delta, it looks a lot better at that point. But having no like point of comparison otherwise, I thought it looked great. I had no problem with the way it looked, even now. With the way it handled was great. They're like the mechanics and the gameplay. They're like my one gripe is probably that there are so many mechanics that it takes a long time to adjust and be able to figure out what you're doing and get comfortable with it. But the game itself played really well. It took me until getting into the fight with the end, where I spent about 45 minutes running around the jungle. And I'm kind of glad that it made me do that, because I got really comfortable with the movement at that point and what I'm doing, to be able to kind of enjoy the rest of the game even more. But on the PS2, I think it worked totally fine. The only thing I missed out on is the PS2 had touch sensitive buttons, right? So there was some controls that were set up for when you're grabbing someone to interrogate them, which were made a lot tougher not having been on the original PS2 with those touch sensitive buttons on those controllers, because I don't know if they kept doing that going forward. But I really liked it. I thought it looked good. I thought the gameplay was really good. I think sometimes the mechanics stepped over each other when they said, here's a really complicated way of doing this where you can fight this boss and do this. Also, you could just look at him and shoot him. So you had to kind of pick what way you wanted to play and what you were doing. But once I got comfortable with it, it was great. There was a lot of anxiety early on, not knowing how to handle different situations and when I was going to be seen or not seen, and trying to go stealth. But you know what? You quickly learn that this is, at least in my opinion, just as good of an action game as it is a stealth game. So it didn't matter. As soon as I'd go in, I'd try to be quiet and stealthy, and then as soon as the alarm went up, as soon as it hit the fan, suddenly we're in full action mode. He's screaming like Predator as you shoot off your light machine gun, and you're diving behind different trenches and hiding and trying to regain your status. It was great.
Yeah, I'd say that's the experience with every Metal Gear Solid game is the first time you play it, you're kind of like bumbling through and setting off alarms and, taking guys down left, right, and center. It is more like an action game. But by the end of it, you've become very comfortable. And if you do go back, then you can start really like stealthily getting through. And like the biggest juxtaposition, again, to bring up Metal Gear Solid 5, like, when you see somebody playing that for the first time versus like what they're doing after they've been playing for like 20 to 30 hours, it looks like a totally different game.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. And
do the controls continue to be as oddly obnoxious as they were in like the early ones? Because that is one thing that I don't know. Maybe even on Delta, you guys had it different. I don't know. I'm kind of curious to hear, because there are points in that game where I am holding down two triggers, one of the bumpers, a face button, and I'm aiming with an analog stick. Like my hands went into a claw formation to handle a controller in such a way that I've never had to do before, just to like fire off a single shot.
No, that's not in Delta. I think 2 is the worst offender of that for sure. When you're trying to freeze the C4, that's probably the worst offense of the claw controls. But
wow.
That was something I was stoked about as well for Delta, was just like the nicer, modern convention controls. It was like, oh, this was so good.
Yeah, and I mean that's what I assume a lot of people had. Were just blessing Konami for doing, because I also remember my friends being like, oh man, it's like you really turned into a pro playing a Kojima game, because back in the day they would do these like crazy things watching them play, and I was like, dude, how many fingers are you using right now? Like, what's going on? Like, what's happening to you?
It's at least 4 fingers, 2 toes. If you're me, maybe a nose, because mine's so big.
Nose,
you just gotta get it in there, man.
Yeah. Well, Steve, I mean, you're the only one who truly has the full experience of playing both. Can you break down a little bit, like, where do you feel the difference is? What are the changes? What are the big, like, stark changes, especially?
Well, I sort of touched on it before, but like the controls being the big one, all the well, okay, I'll go into it a bit more. So in Metal Gear Solid 3, one of the new mechanics being in the jungle was this camouflage system. So you always have a rating of, 0% to 100% of how much Snake is camouflaged, depending on what camouflage pattern he's wearing, what face paint he has on, and the environment. So, if you're in the forest and you're wearing, bright blue, you're going to have a pretty crappy camouflage rating, but if you're, prone and you're wearing like green and brown and then the woods and you paint your face like that, like, you could have like an 80 or 90 or, there's certain camos that'll let you get to 100, which makes you much harder to spot, which is part of why like the second time around the game gets a bit easier to be stealthy, because you've unlocked more camos by the end of the game. In the beginning you have very few. But to do that in the PS2 version, it was, hit, I think it was select, not pause, because if you do pause, it like takes you to the options and quit. But, hit select. It's PS2, so it takes a couple seconds to load, and then you have to go to the camouflage menu, and then you can pick out your body camouflage, and then you can pick out your face camouflage, then you have to back out, and then you can finally start going again. You still have to do that initially in Delta, but once you've, sort of set up a few combos, you just hold up on the D-pad and it brings it up without you having to pause the game, and you can quick select and it changes in a second and you're good to go. That was awesome. Snake for the first time like can sustain different kinds of injuries, broken bones, you can get bullet wounds, cuts, infections, tummy ache, and you can throw up, which I think there's an achievement for in Delta, is making Snake puke. And you had to go to the cure menu, and it was the same way. You pause, you bring up that menu, and then you go through. Now in Delta, if Snake gets an injury, again, you can there's a prompt for it. It's just tap up instead of holding it on the D-pad, and it'll take you right to the cure menu. So they just did all these things to streamline a lot of the menuing, which was great. The controls by far is the greatest change, in my opinion. The graphics, yes, of course, like they look fantastic now. I have to give a huge shout out to the modding community, because as you guys know, I almost couldn't play this game because of the Unreal Engine woes. Like, it seemed fine at first, and then I got to the first boss fight with the Fury, and my game turned into a slideshow. It was brutal. And then I found, after panicking a lot and thinking maybe my computer was shitting the bed, because I do meet the specs. I meet the specs. I should not have been an issue, and it didn't seem like it was. But anyway, once that started happening and I calmed down, modding community had already found fixes to make this work on... to get rid of, like, the Unreal Engine 5-ness of it. And then it started working like a dream again. So, I got to enjoy the new graphics and the gameplay and didn't waste $95. That's how much it cost for a remake, which I do think is a bit absurd. But as a, huge Metal Gear Solid fanboy, I'm okay with it. But I think for your average Joe, I think that's a bit ridiculous for a remaster, not a remake. Sorry. So yeah, man, like those are the biggest ones. Nothing in the story changed. The story is exactly the same. The other thing that they added is they're called Gakkos. So the Karatans, which are those little frog dolls that are in every level or in every zone, you can still find those in Delta, but they also added Gakkos. And the rewards for shooting all of the frogs and the Gakkos, which are these like rock-covered rubber ducks, is you get 2 special camouflages, which is one's just like a fully optical camo, Predator style, and then the other one is whatever environment you're on, it automatically adapts to that to hide you. And there's 64 of them, and I think it's like the last 10 or 12 are in the chase scenes at the end and are just a huge pain in the ass to get. But I'm almost there. I've got 61 of 64 of both, so that I'm doing that.
Wow, dude.
Well, I want it. I just want to do that so that when I do my extreme run, I can just freaking coast through on stealth mode. I don't have to try too hard. But
how did you guys feel about like the all the codec discussions and all the characters that you kind of come across in your codec? Like, was that something you guys generally skipped over, or is that something you listened to every one of them, or like how did you guys treat those?
Mike, you first. I think you know my answer.
I mean, I tried to skip as much as I could just because that was boring as shit. But like, especially when they would go off on like films and like, I mean, some of them was interesting. I tried for the first little while, but I mean, look, there's 2 negatives to this game, and one of them was how much time I got pulled. Like, when it was a cool cutscene, it was a cool cutscene, right? It was cinematic. But getting pulled into just listening to these lectures on these codecs was fucking torture for me.
The film ones is when you're saving a game. That character
Yeah.
paramedic, yeah, it was like, oh Snake,
Yeah.
have you seen this film?
Yeah.
But he's like, no, I've been in wars my entire life. I don't have time for movies.
Never seen a
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah.
I've never looked at a magazine.
What's a movie? Yeah.
Those ones, yeah. I mean, do I skip them? Yes. Did I the first time I played the game? No. I do. When like a main character is speaking and there's like a plot point happening, I have no issue with it. The only thing that kind of like, I guess, breaks my immersion is the timing of some of them. And I think the most egregious one is, when you're going to blow up the Shagohod and you're planting C4 in the factory, and then you plant the last one, and then he just turns around and he's like, all right. And then you have like a 10-minute phone call, like, and he's just standing there in the middle of the factory floor, and you're like, maybe like go in a corner or something,
Yeah.
but it's whatever. Like, it's a minor gripe for me.
I loved every single one of them, honestly. Like
Wow.
I'd put down I'd start it if it was our paramedic movie conversations. I'd just put my controller down. I'd wait for her to finish explaining Godzilla to me and telling me what the morals were about how I need to go to Japan, and the little wink and the nod about how this series is going to go on for 50 years. I loved when other characters would jump into another character's conversation. When she starts talking about Bond and Snake says that he hates that stuff, and then the Major jumps in and he just bites him a new one. He goes off for it's solid like 3 to 4 minutes, and then they start talking about making him like snake weapon attaché cases to be more like Bond, and how he doesn't know how to handle ladies, and what's he gonna do with the femme fatale, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I liked it when it was like the call in the middle of this crazy action scene, and he would just stop and put his finger to his ear, and he would just sit there and have this like deep conversation. Like there's an element of cheesiness to this that makes it feel like, to me, like the ultimate Bond video game, despite clearly not being that. Where you've got your team with the Major, you've got Q, you've got M, you've got Moneypenny, you've got basically his whole supporting cast who's just there to kind of push you through. And I just like checking in with them consistently and getting all their opinions on this stuff, as crazy as some of that stuff was.
Yeah, and I mean, it's there in every game, the codec calls, and there's all the forced conversations, which I'm also a fan of. After you've seen them a few times, like, that's where I'll skip through just so I can get back to the gameplay. Sure. But also, like, calling them on your own is how you like learn more about the game, or how you get tips on like what you can maybe do in certain situations. Like, it's also a tool. It's not just like an exposition device, and it's sort of up to you to discover that, just like everything else. Like, there's so many crazy things in every Metal Gear Solid game. Like in 3, for example. So the Sorrow fight, which is one of the bosses, I was really hoping you guys didn't know the secret of that one going into it, but it sounds like you both did, right?
Oh, no.
No?
No idea.
I thought you did, Mike.
No.
No, I had heard about this epic moment in the river, but I didn't know how to get over it. I just accidentally pressed the D-pad.
What do you mean? You press the D-pad and what happened?
Well, then all of a sudden my item menu popped up for a second instead of it, and I was like, oh, hold on, I can access my item menu, and then I remembered about the...
No, so that's not what I meant. Like, so the Sorrow is supposed to be the only member of the Cobras that's dead before you get... Like, before you go on this mission, and... after when you escape from Groznygrad after being tortured, you jump out of a drainage tunnel like Harrison Ford and the Fugitive, and you end up in the river, and you seemingly wake up, and the Sorrow is there, and you're going through one of those really shallow rivers again, and the ghosts of everyone you've killed is trying to kill you now. The quirk of that fight is if you don't kill anybody, it's super short. There's just the Cobra unit, because they die no matter what. Like, even though if you drain their stamina instead of draining their health, they blow up at the end of all of their fights, so there's no way for them to not show up in the Sorrow fight. But the more people you kill, the longer that fight gets. And, you know...
It's actually, like, representative of the people you've killed.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And
I didn't know that even till now.
So that's what Mike knew.
I just thought that was like a set thing.
So the reason I bring this up in that fight specifically, so you know when you're on the mountains and there's the vultures?
Yeah.
If you kill somebody and then a vulture eats that person and then you kill the vulture and eat the vulture, in the Sorrow fight there will be a ghost that's being attacked by a vulture.
Are you serious?
I'm dead serious.
Wow.
Yeah. You can...
Did you know also that that fight can be very short because you can drown yourself right away and it counts too?
Yeah, you can finish it right away. You don't have to do the whole thing.
Yeah.
You just drown yourself and then use the revival pill. Yeah. Which is how... It's the quickest way to get through it if you're trying to, you know, beat the game in under 5 hours. That's sort of mandatory. Did you know you can... Did you know you can make Snake pass out?
What do you mean?
So you know the handkerchief with like the chloroform on it?
Yeah.
If you just keep waving it in the air, the fumes will make Snake pass out.
Oh, really?
Yeah. he falls asleep from the fumes.
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's funny. There are so many systems in this game that work in a way that you don't... Like, I really appreciate that all these things work in ways that are internally consistent that you wouldn't otherwise think they would do. And it kind of blows my mind that they're able to make this game in... How long was it? Like 5 years between 2 and 3? 5 or 6 years?
2004 is when it came out. I don't remember when number 2 came out.
Well, I mean, 2 came out on a PS2, right? Mm-hmm. So it couldn't have been more than like 6 years or so.
Yeah, this was right near the end of the PS2's life cycle.
Yeah. Well, I mean, 2 and 3 came out on the PS2, right? So if 3 comes out after, it had to be just 5 or 6 years between, whatever that gap was. And these days it takes, you know, decade, 11, 12 years to make games. And they've got, in that short amount of time, they've got all these really elaborate systems that are built in that they didn't have to add in, right? Like, there's probably a percentage of people who've never seen some of the stuff you're describing, like myself included. Some of that stuff I've definitely not seen. But it's super impressive to me the way some of that stuff works.
I mean, you say that they didn't have to include it, but I guarantee you that Kojima made them include all of it. There was no Metal Gear Solid 3 without any of those things.
Sure, but the fans are not sitting there saying this must work this way. You know, like, it was every time I found a way that something worked, I was always pleasantly surprised that there was a consideration for it, or there was some kind of a explanation or reason for it. Like giving SIGINT calls while you're like in a box, hiding in a box, gives you like special dialogue about how he loves being in a box, and also this kind of fourth wall breaking commentary by him about how silly this is and it makes no sense, but he's going to do what he wants to do. Yeah, it's you know, they didn't have to do that, and I appreciate that stuff's there.
Yeah, I love that line where he's like,
which one's SIGINT?
He's the weapons expert.
Oh,
you're only forced.
Definitely never called.
Yeah, you're only forced to talk to him once, but if you call him, you get a lot of funny dialogue. Like, one of my favorite Snake lines when you do the box one, he's like, I just got this urge to go in the box, and now I feel like I always should have been here, and like the box is where I belong. And SIGINT's like, what the hell are you talking about, man? It's like, you should come, because you should come in the box with me. He's like, I don't want to come in your goddamn box. Like,
it's that same conversation where he's just like, you're just gonna do whatever you want. Snake's like, yeah, I will. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. This is gonna set this up perfect.
But speaking of the cardboard boxes, you know, it's a classic Metal Gear Solid sneaking tool. But you know how there's like A, B, and C? I don't know if you found all three, both of you.
I didn't find all of them, but I saw they were labeled differently. Yeah.
When you're in Groznygrad, the big Volgan base where the Shagohod is, the first time you sneak in, if you go in the back of one of the trucks and you put yourself in the cardboard box, depending on which one you do, it can put you in the lab where you need to be.
Oh, yeah. I never tried that. I knew that was a thing in Metal Gear, but I didn't know if it worked in here, and I just never tried it.
Yeah, I think it's like box A takes you to like the north sector, box B puts you like in the lab that you need to be, and box C somewhere else. There's so many little things that it's just like you don't think to try it, but then when you hear about it, you're like, oh, like that makes so much sense that you'd be able to do that.
I didn't use a box once.
I didn't use it the first, on this playthrough either. Just like screw it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it saves you probably like 10 minutes if you're trying to again get the under
Yeah.
5 hour achievement. Like saves you a lot of sneaking around. It's a lot easier. You just get in the truck, put the box
100%.
on instead of trying to sneak around. Like there's some sections of this game where I still, after however many times I've played it, I'm not sure how I'm going to get through it without raising any alarms, but I'm excited to try.
Yeah.
That's the next challenge for me.
Yeah, the mountain, man. I don't know how you're going to do it on the mountain. That was the hardest no alarm section for me.
Oh, that one's easy.
How?
Just get good. My favorite thing to
I
say
guess.
is get good, Scrib.
Honestly, that was the only part where I like every other part. I agree with you. I could see how I got pretty good at sneaking, but that mountain part was just because between the helicopters and just when you go into this one section, it is just so exposed right away. And there's one specific section where I'm like, how the hell do I get to the trench without being seen? But I didn't use the box. Maybe the box is the secret.
I don't know. Usually for me, it's the top of the first section is where I'll usually get caught. But I think I have that part figured. Or actually, I know I have that part figured out now because when I was going back for the Caratans, I got through that pretty easy. There's always be the way I would usually get caught is I'd be like going through an area and I'd be fine, and then I would think that I missed something and I would do like a blind turn, and then there's just a dude there like, hey, what's up? And I'm just like, fuck, like, every time.
Yeah,
If I just kept going, I would have been fine.
But that's exactly what happens. You do think you're doing this great job and you think you know where everyone is. And then there's this one guy who's suddenly like, huh? What's that noise? And you're like, fuck, I made it this far. Like, what the hell? Like, what is going on?
Yeah. And it is sort of like still kind of quirky where, you'll be maybe like 10, 15 feet from a dude and you're kind of, waist high in bushes because you're crouching and the guy's just like, what is that? Somebody over there? Like, what's... And then he gets headshot, and then the next guy's like, what? So it's still, it has like that old kind of game charm, but I think if they were like super hyper vigilant, like, Splinter Cell style, this game would feel very different and maybe not be as fun.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
It gives you some leeway, which I like. It makes it fun.
Totally. I agree.
Did you
Where'd
like
you
the
guys land
game,
with
Mike?
boss fights.
Oh, sorry, Mike. Simon, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say, where'd you guys land with the boss fights? Where were you with those? Like that's we haven't talked about that at all, and that to me is like such a crazy, weird departure from you're sneaking around and doing things in this stealthy way, going to action, and then you find bosses that have pretty unique, like fight arenas and different mechanics on how you can take them down.
Do you remember all the names, Mike? Of all the bosses?
No.
No?
I don't even remember the first one. I remember the end. I remember the Sorrow. I remember the Rocketeer or something like that.
That's the Fury.
Well, I don't remember the Fury. Yeah, that's the one. The Toad guy, I killed him in like 30 seconds, so I don't even remember. He's a blip for me.
The Toad
Like
guy?
the one in the trees who jumps around.
The Fear, the spider.
Oh, the Fear. Okay, since we're talking about bosses, I didn't like. I mean, I got through for some of them pretty quick because I had the AK-47 and I just and they died. But like Simon would tell me his journey on these bosses, and I was like, what the hell? Like, how is this such a different experience? But the Fear, you get this crazy arena with all these things that are falling down, like all these setups, and he didn't use any of them. Like, what is the point in the Fear arena to use those? Are you supposed to use them? Is he supposed to use them? What happens in
they're all on tripwires. So you're just supposed to like hit a tripwire and then the log with spikes comes down.
Well, I didn't hit anything.
They're
just all in the trees. I was like, what?
There's mines too. You just, if you don't trigger them, you don't trigger them. Like, it is what it is. The other boss that
Did you hit any of them?
Is the Pain, which is the first one. Yeah, I triggered some of the traps. But it's like,
What about you, Simon?
you hear like a twig snap and then you just roll out of the way.
With the exception of the pain. I think I played each one of these boss fights multiple times, and some of them were just like, I'd get near the end, I kind of wanted to see what it was, and I'd call in the codec and see what you can do. But they all seem to have lots of different ways to be able to play them and fight them, and I think it also depends on like your equipment stuff. Like you're talking about just fighting these guys with an AK. I didn't find the
Yeah.
AK, I don't think, at any point. Like my first machine gun was basically near the mountain. Like after fighting
Damn.
the end is when I found my first machine gun. So they're like I didn't have machine guns to do that. But yeah, there's lots of different ways to fight them, and
Yeah, I think
it's enjoyable like finding out the different stuff.
the end is probably the most glaring example of that, and because you can kill him before his boss fight. And like you were asking me, Mike, where you get the sniper rifle from. There's one like pretty early on, and then there's literally one right before you get to the end. So you're in that swamp that Simon was talking about, with the beautiful sunset. There's two paths. The one to the left is kind of hard to see, but there's a sniper rifle there. And then you come back out and just scoot over to the right. The cutscene with the end plays, and then you can just kill him right there. He tries to roll away in his wheelchair, but you can just shoot him right there.
Damn, I wouldn't want to skip the end. That's the best. That's like the best boss fight in my opinion.
Well, and also, if you do kill him before the boss fight, you can't get his camo, which gives you the powers of photosynthesis, and you can't get his his tranquilizer sniper rifle, the Mosin Nagant.
Yeah.
So you do kind of hurt yourself because the Mosin Nagant is the best weapon to use for the bosses after him if you want to do beat them through stamina instead of health. Which is another new mechanic in this game is the stamina bar. Running around, diving, swimming, whatever, that all drains your stamina, and you have to eat food, and you can find food, which is, Russian rations, which Snake always goes, "Oh, this tastes terrible," or the calorie mates, or the instant noodles, or you can shoot or capture animals, snakes and frogs and gators and vultures and fish, and you can eat those, and you got to use those to keep Snake's stamina up. One of the things you can do against the fear, he might not have even done this when you were fighting him, Mike, but he'll try to recharge his stamina at some point and also to get some health back. If you keep food long enough, it rots, and you can start throwing rotten food around in the fear's arena. And if he eats it, he hurts himself. Yeah.
The pain and the fear were like 30 seconds for me. I guess the end was pretty quick too, but that's all because of the AK-47. The pain was my least favorite boss because that was just like standing on that rock and having to dive into water every time bees came at you was a little bit ridiculous. But the other bosses were pretty good. Like the fear, I just didn't get to experience them like you guys did. Like he jumped into one tree, I shot him. He jumped to another tree, I shot him. He jumped to another tree, he's dead.
Mm-hmm. And you found the thermal goggles, which makes him it kind of trivializes it. He's super easy to find. Do you remember seeing the glowing mushrooms everywhere? Both of you, the green glowing mushrooms.
Yeah.
So if you cut those, and you can have some in your inventory when you're fighting Volgan, if you chuck those into the arena, they freak him out, and his lightning that he shoots out is drawn to the glowing mushrooms instead of to you.
Whoa!
Really?
Yeah.
I thought you were gonna say the dialogue about the glowing mushrooms.
No.
Which is another awesome codec entry where they just talk about Snake behind his back and call him an idiot, but then just kind of go along with him.
What?
Yeah, he claims that they recharge because he just assumes they recharge his batteries on his equipment, and they tell him they tell him it doesn't, and you can hear Sigint in the background saying he's super gullible, but damn, he's real stupid, isn't he? They said just let him believe that, and then paramedic just comes on and she's like, Snake, you're right, it recharges your batteries. Move on, keep going. He's like, yeah, I know.
Wow.
Although, even Volgan, for years I had no idea why he was saying that catchphrase all the time. Kuwabara, Kuwabara. He's always saying that.
Yeah, I still don't know why. Yeah.
It's an old folklore thing. I forget from what country, but basically you say that to ward off the lightning, or the lightning spirit. So for him, it makes sense because he's always electrically charged, and if he doesn't release, I guess, a certain amount, he's going to like fry himself, foreshadowing. So he's always saying Kuwabara, Kuwabara to ward off the lightning spirit.
That was a great boss fight too. Volgan was really good. Obviously, it leads into like the finale, which amazing. But
brilliant. Yeah.
his was great. I really enjoy. Like the end to me is still, I think, one of the most unique boss fights that I've played in any game. Period.
Well, why don't you describe it for us?
It sounds like what I did was very different than what Mike did, and I'm not sure what you did, Steve. But for me, I showed up. I had no automatic weapons. I had I found there was a sniper in the shed on the same map that he was in. I missed the portion of dialogue where it said that he can go to 3 different maps. I thought when they were describing the plains, the river, and the jungle or the forested area, I thought that was all on the same map. So I did not leave the map because I was terrified I was going to restart or cancel out the boss fight.
Oh.
So I was on the same screen the whole time. But for me, it was me learning the controls, basically being about 50% of the way into this game and finally getting comfortable with and learning the controls and crawling around in the jungle, making sure my camo matched, looking for the little sparkle of his sniper rifle whenever he was pointed in any direction. And just having like a sniper exchange with this guy until the very, very end for the last shot when I could hear him breathing very heavily and he wasn't far away, and I just ran at him with a shotgun because he was within 5 or 10 feet of me. But yeah, I spent about 45 minutes, maybe a little more, trying to fight him. I think you guys, well, at least I know Mike had a very different experience with that.
But wait. You stayed in the same area map and just waited for him to come back every time? Oh my God,
That's
dude.
why it took you so
I didn't
long,
realize
yeah.
he could leave. When they were describing the river, the woods, and the open area, I thought they were talking about, because there's some water, there's a little open bit, and there are trees. They're all in the same thing.
Oh.
There's no other boss fight where I can change and leave the map. I thought doing that meant that I would cancel out the boss fight and I was just ditching him, which I did not want to do because I was enjoying it and it was long. I didn't want to be half an hour in and then restart it. So I just hung out and hid and would try and lure him out in that one area, which eventually worked. Yeah.
Mike,
That's crazy.
Yeah,
That's it.
I can't. Yeah, the fact that you stayed in that one area is nuts. But good for
Yeah,
you. Good for you for having the patience, man.
Yeah.
Which, ironically enough, is another way you can take down the end. If you just quit the game, leave it for a week, and then come back, he'll die of old age.
No,
You serious?
come on.
Yeah, 100% serious.
You have to leave it for a week.
I think it's a week. It's at least a week.
I remember her paramedic having a really weird save message dialogue.
That's something
in the
else.
codec. Sorry.
That leads to something else. If you save the game and quit,
that leads to something else.
if you save the game and quit, that takes Snake into a dream where you're basically playing like a Devil May Cry action game. It's called Guy Savage.
What?
There's so much of this game I still don't know, but okay.
Yeah.
That sounds great.
You wake up in this like nightmare fantasy and you've got 2 swords and you're just doing like Devil May Cry action combat. That's what she's talking about there. But
Very cool.
If you quit the game for a week, if you save the game for a week and then you come back and load it, you'll get a cutscene where Snake like walks up on the end and kind of like pokes his body, and it turns out he died of old age.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
It's Kojima, baby.
That's great. That's great, man. That's
crazy, man. Like, and for your playthrough, I assume you knew all the secrets. You shook them out for the sniper and the camo this time, right?
Yeah, so this is a bit of the PS2 bones showing on this game. He always starts in the same place. That's never going to change. So if you sneak around to the right, because you can sort of just go like straight, go right up the hill, and he'll be up on a spot where you can see him. You can go to the left, which will take you to the hut, which has like food and stuff. And also there's a path that goes to the left, which takes you to the next area. But if you go to the right, you go to I think that's like the west zone, and then you hook around, like you take a wide sort of path to the left, which gets you to the upper zone where he is, and you can sneak up on him. He'll always be there. So for me, it was do that, sneak up on him, use the cigarette spray, which does the most amount of stamina damage to him, and then just turn away. Like, you literally just, like, turn Snake around. He'll throw his stun grenade. The effect wears off, like, instantaneously. And then you can see where the end is running away to, and you just chase him. You can even get a couple shots off with the Mark 22. And then you just chase him to the next spot. And again, where the age kind of shows is, like, you know, the end will run away, and he might go to the next screen, but he's, like, in the sniping spot that you come out, like, facing. And he's just kind of looking off in the distance with you, like, you know, right here behind him, sneaking up on him. And he's like, where are you? This is the best battle, you know, best final battle. And you're like, literally just been walking behind you this whole time, dude. And so you just, you know, do that again. And like Mike said, I held him up. And he has to shake 3 times, and he gives you his moss camo. And if you do the stamina, if you beat him by draining his stamina, when he blows up at the end, he leaves his tranquilizer sniper rifle there.
Crazy.
Yeah. So, I mean, once you know where he's going to start, it becomes pretty easy, as long as you know how to get there. There's an even...
Is there like a...
Go ahead.
Go.
I was just going to say that the way that speedrunners do it is even crazier. Like, they'll do the... I don't remember how they start it, but then they just stand in a spot and do, like, the punch kick combo, like, 6 or 7 times. Then he just kind of, like, appears there. And then they just, like... They'll take him out in, like, a minute. It's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So are there, like, other... Do you know of other complex ways to take down other bosses that give you special rewards? Like... Fuck, you just told me the name. The Fury, for example.
The Fury, the best thing to do with him is abuse the reload glitch on the tranquilizer sniper rifle. So when you like equip and unequip a gun really quickly, instead of having to do a reload animation, it's instantaneous. So you just do that super fast, so you can spam the tranquilizer sniper to get him down quickly. Otherwise, like if you get him near the explosive barrels and you blow those up, that's like 3/4 of his health gone in one shot.
What does he give you if you take him down with stamina?
All of them give you like a special camo. So the one from the Fury makes you immune essentially to fire damage, which is great against the Fury the second time you fight him. The the Fear gives you a camo that has a super high stealth rating, like makes you borderline invisible, but it drains your stamina really quick. The Pains, I forget what it does, but he gives you another one. Volgan gives you the one that makes it look like you're in a Russian like uniform, but it has an American flag on the back. And it's
I remember.
It's pretty funny to use. So like when you're facing an enemy, they'll be like, "Oh, you're a Russian," but if you turn around, they're like, "Oh, American," and they'll shoot you. So everybody gives you a special camo.
That's funny. Well, I know you guys remember me with my endgame fit with my geisha face and my American and Russian.
Yeah.
That's right.
In that chase cutscene, it just looks so ridiculous. But it's good. That's how you got to play a Kojima game, just be as wacky as possible.
I knew. I gave in at that point.
But the boss fight we have to talk about is the boss.
Yeah.
We have to talk about that one. And I'm going to give you guys another tidbit you probably didn't know. There's 3 logs that you can hide behind. There's the trees, and then there's the tipped over logs. At each one of those logs, there's 3 of them. There's a white snake behind each of them, which you can't find anywhere in the game. And if you capture them, one is liquid snake, one is solid snake, and one is solid as snake.
What?
Yeah.
Like you capture them, and that's the name in your inventory of
Yeah.
those? Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea. Yeah, that's...
What happens if you eat them?
No, he just goes, "Oh, this is delicious."
Full stamina.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Well, I mean, I'll tell you right now, I really desperately wanted to do it the right way, which is hand-to-hand takedowns. And I got close a couple times, but then I just wanted to finish the game, so I eventually just pulled out the rocket launcher and started owning her. But I wanted to. I just ran out of patience. Like, I think I did 10 or 12 tries, and I was like, and the timing has to be so perfect,
Yeah, so you can't just like run up and CQC her. she has to charge you. Like, that's the only time that you can really engage in that. And then it is a timing thing. There's specific timings for the first one she does it where it's one sequence and you'll counter that and knock her down. But then she's shooting and you got to hide and try and, again, get her with the Mosin Nagant, which is the tranquilizer sniper rifle is the best one to use if you're going for the stamina defense or victory. And then when you get her to about like half stamina or half health, that's when you have the 2-sequence CQC rush, where you have to, time 2 button presses in like a specific zone, or she'll throw you to the ground. But also, if you have a gun equipped, she'll take the gun apart.
Yeah, disarm it. Yeah, I know.
So you can lose some of your weapons there, which sucks. But luckily, you can unequip them pretty fast. But probably one of my favorite boss fights in any video game ever. Like, period. It's the stage itself is gorgeous. Like, it's such a beautiful spot. Yeah. And, like, she launches another nuke just before she launches the second one to blow up Grozny Grad, just to make sure there's no loose ends. And then you're just both there in the field across from each other. And, she tells you about the kid that she had to give birth to on the battlefield in World War II and why she's a traitor. And, it's so epic. It's just like, either you're going to kill me or I'm going to kill you. There could be only one boss. I'm just like, yes, but no.
Oh, yeah.
I think like by the end, you're also supposed to love the boss, and it's supposed to be shitty. Yeah. It feels shitty to kill her. It sucks.
Yeah, it's up there in the pantheon of cool action hero stuff, where you're in like this flowery field that she's camouflaged in. She's telling you and giving her death monologue, as every one of the bosses in this game does. Gives you their battlefield philosophy as you enter battle, she tells you also that she's already called in the fighter jets to come and bomb the area, and you have 10 minutes. Otherwise, everyone's dead. Yeah. You're both dead. Like, it's something so inherently cool and badass about, like, all right, I've already sealed both of our deaths. The only way you get out of this is you're going to have to CQC me, which is the strategy that we both developed together. Student becomes the master, and then you'll have to kill me and get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
It's very cool. I also didn't know going through that game that there was an inherent difference between killing a boss through stamina or damage. So like I was doing the parries for the CQC, and then as soon as she dropped on the ground, I would take out the shotgun or another weapon and shoot her while she's on the ground.
That's crazy.
Oh
yeah, and I just thought that's how you had to do it, and I did that. It took like 5 or 6 of those before she went down. And then it still surprised me, like the end of that, where you have to press the trigger. Like, you got to press the button to kill her. I waited for a long time. I was waiting to see if it was a cutscene, if it was something else was going to intervene, if there was a Kojima thing. And then after 2 or 3 minutes, I panicked that the timer for the fighter jets was still going, and I finally hit it. But it's a heavy scene for sure.
And Mike, I know you're not like the story isn't your favorite, or even the characters or the dialogue, but I think there's a few things in this game specifically that Kojima did extremely well in terms of like setting up characters. So, when Ocelot's first introduced, and this will wrap back around to the boss fight, when Ocelot's first introduced, he rolls up and he shoots like 7 dudes in 2 seconds. And, is doing all this crazy stuff with his gun. Like, you're like, oh man, this guy's freaking badass. Like, he establishes that. And then in that same scene, he gets absolutely clowned by Snake. So Snake, basically without breaking any sweat, took down this guy that was just established as being someone super badass. And then which I think gives us a indication of the level that Snake's at. Plus all the things that you're doing throughout the game. But through that cutscene specifically, I think he does a really good job of characterizing, Ocelot's badass, Snake's here, and then you've already been taken out by the boss once at this point. So, it's Ocelot, Snake the boss. And throughout the entirety of the game, anytime you're coming across the boss, she's handily whooping your ass in CQC. Like, it's not even close at any point. You don't land one shot. And then for that last standoff to sort of culminate in like we're gonna have this CQC battle, I thought was pretty epic. It was, me personally, in terms of a storytelling moment. Like, you start the game, you're terrible at it. By the end of the game, you're pretty darn good at it, and you can now beat the boss and, you know, become Big Boss. So not only has the character progressed, Snake, but also, you know, the player has. I like that he sort of has that meta narrative in there at the same time. But I like that characterization of, you know, Snake's getting his ass beat left, right, and center. It makes him look weak. He beats Ocelot no problem multiple times, and then now we have this showdown at the end. I thought that was freaking awesome.
Yeah, I don't disagree
as well. With the theme song playing.
Yeah, the theme song.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I mean, look, that build-up was great. I mean, 75% of the story setups in this were great. Yeah, especially that one. For me, that whole fight, the only reason I stopped doing the CQC was because I got maybe 4/5 of the way through her health, and I was strictly just countering her attacks. Mm-hmm. Strictly. I wasn't doing anything else. No trank weapons or anything. I got to 4/5 of their health down, and then she got me, and I just like was like, I can't do this again. I can't go through, like, because I wasn't really understanding fully how I got all the timings every time. Like, the variability of it wasn't clicking for me. So, you know, I just was like, you know, I just need to finish this. But I enjoyed a lot of the payoffs. I mean, if we're here, I mean, the big red X for me in this whole game is how much time you have to spend with Eva. I do not like Eva. I hate Eva.
Before we get there, the one thing Simon didn't mention after you pull the trigger, that boss fight is in a field of all white flowers, and when you pull the trigger, this wave comes out in a circle, and all the flowers turn red.
Turns red.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, so you don't like Eva. Expand.
Look, what I love about Metal Gear Solid is the espionage soldier story. I love it. I love it. I don't even mind the whole meta-narrative Eva having to be a triple agent and having her own index, but the whole awkward fucking love story with her and Snake was like nails on a chalkboard to me. And the amount of time you have to spend with it is absolutely insane. I think there's more Eva love story than there's actually story in this game.
Oh, I don't know about that, but
that's a crazy take.
It's probably a close 50-50 to be honest with you.
No.
Look, this gameplay, okay, this game took me 9 hours, okay? It was a 9-hour playthrough for me to get through. And I swear to God, 3 to 4 hours of those was just me having to watch Snake awkwardly talking to Eva. And it was just like nails on a chalkboard to me. It was killer. Look, the only thing that takes me out is just like, especially in the beginning, is just how much time I'm on this like, I do love the greater narrative of like Soldier going in, Big Boss, all these double agents, all these triple agents, and then this like, hey, big boy Soldier, like, hey, Snake, you don't like me, Snake? Like, I get it. I get her intentions. I really do. But the amount of time you have to spend with it could have been cut down so significantly and still gotten the point across, instead of us having these glamour boob shots of just like, I feel like the whole reason it's there is just so you can press the right trigger and Kojima could have another time you're just staring at her cleavage.
Don't you dare talk shit about our glamour boob shots. How dare you?
You know, you're the third person I've said this to that has like responded to me like that. Be like, don't you dare say anything about Eva's boob. Don't you dare. Like, as if this is their childhood high point, you know? Like, this is it. Like, they were too young to be able to look at a girl's cleavage, and Kojima allowed it, you know? Like, and their parents didn't know.
Yeah.
That they were watching this.
Accurate.
You know?
Accurate. You know, you can when you get near the end and you have to like you treat her injuries and you get access to like, you know, giving her food when her stamina's going down, you can look at her medical history.
No,
I didn't know that. What's in her medical history?
A boob job.
Oh my God.
By the way, I hated that 5-minute section of escorting her through the jungle. Eventually, I found out you could trank her, and that's what I did. Is I just shot her with the trank gun and carried her through. That's a little aside, a
Wow,
little tangent. But yeah,
that's genius.
anyways, go on.
You know,
That's a crazy take that you don't like Eva, and that you think it's taking up half the game. And she's a classic like femme fatale. This is a total Bond stereotype. Except she's a lot more capable, and she shows herself to actually be like a very capable agent who's
She-
getting everything
have
she
no-
needs to get done.
she backflip
Hey,
kicks
I
a
have-
dude in the face with a motorcycle.
Guys, I have no I have no problem with Eva as a character. I have a problem with how many times you're just spent freaking romancing her.
Twice.
That's my problem.
It's twice.
And the scenes are
Yeah,
way
there's-
too
there's-
long.
there's
Way
two.
too
There's
long. And there's
only
always
two.
like, well, 3 if you count at the lodge at the end. And there's just like a
That's
too
one
much
of the
time.
two I'm counting. That's one of the
No,
two.
under
I'm
the
counting.
under the waterfall
Yeah.
in the cabin in the room in the mountain where she's like, "Oh, snake." That's like the first freaking waste of time. In the mountain scene, it was the first time it slowed down. Steve knows. He just rolled his eyes. The waterfall, and there's just like every time you see her and you guys aren't in some like panic situation, it just slows down and it becomes this romance and like it just really took me out of it.
But it's not a real romance. You know it's not a real romance, especially by the end. It's her just trying to schmooze Snake
Dude,
to
and
get
I
the
felt-
Philosopher's Legacy.
And I felt it was a waste of narrative to me. Like she just took me out of it.
You're a waste of
She
narrative.
was one of my big.
You're a waste of narrative. You take me out of it.
I'm sure when they. It's true. See,
It's like central to the narrative. It's actually one of the key parts of this plot. I don't know how you
And
think it's a waste of the narrative.
I honestly wish it would have just been a story about Snake going in and having to deal with Boss, like and everything else around it.
I feel like
But she is most of everything else. Like she causes or is the end result of most of the things that happens in this story. She sets
Honestly-
up almost everything for you. She gets you in and out. She
Yeah, and
is the
I
one
don't-
going after it. It's the whole stinger at the end of what happens with this, greater, larger narrative. This is a crazy take.
all
Okay,
the
and
things
to
you're
me,
listing
shit
is
narrative.
all the things you're listing though is what Mike doesn't have a problem with. To be fair, I understand your point. I know that's not what you're talking about. I didn't have an issue with it because I don't. To me, like it's campy and it's cheesy, but that's also by design. It's literally playing on that trope of all these helpless Bond girls, except she's not helpless.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's like, of course, every chance she gets, she's like, "Oh, Snake, what would you do if I kissed you right now, Snake?" Like, yeah, I get it, but also, I'm here for the ride. Like, I know it's cheesy, but I don't care. Every Sean Connery movie, Bond movie, was freaking cheesy, but it's just, I'm there for it. I don't care. Doesn't bother me.
Yeah, I don't mind it in a Bond movie. I mind it when I'm trying to go through a Russian base slaughtering a bunch of people.
Then hit pause and then hit the skip button next time. You don't have
I
to
wish
look
I
at
would have
those.
known.
You
If
don't,
I had known.
you don't have to
I
look
had
at that glorious cleavage ever again, Mike.
No, I don't have to. I don't want to be honest. I'm gonna be honest. I'm not gonna hit right bumper next time. Or R1.
It's a brave stance. It's a really
It
bold
is.
position you're taking.
It is.
You're
Yeah.
such a hero.
Yeah, good for you. Good for you. You know what? That's great, man. Good for you.
We love you, buddy.
You guys can keep the digital boob for yourselves.
I think it's out there. I gotta say, I think it's out there, and people seem to like it. People consensus is it's good.
Like I said, 3 people have attacked me for this. 3 people have attacked me now for this. So 4 if I count Simon as well.
I'm not attacking you on the digital boob R1 focus front. I'm attacking
Steve was.
you on the.
I was
Yes, he
joking.
was.
I do think it's
he's right to do it. But I'm shocked that you had such a problem with the Evo. Like everything about this game, there's a really cheesy element. There's a cheesy element to every single conversation in this. That's part of what I really liked, and that's why I say this to me is like the best Bond game I've ever played. Is because it embodies like so many different aspects of that, and like the Evo relationship is such a key piece of that. And I don't think they overdid it. I don't remember the 4 different scenes that you're referencing. There was 2 where they were like hinting at a sex scene, or saying that there was a sex scene that was happening, but the whole thing was a couple minutes. In this world of Kojima 30-minute to 40-minute cutscenes, this was, a few minutes of them joking around. There's even like a early conversation with the
Okay,
Major where he says like, how Bond handles the femme fatales. It's
I
a
know,
it's a game of wits. Like
but
who's gonna
okay,
bed who's gonna use who, right?
but I'd argue it felt less present for you because you did a lot more of the codec talks. Like you had a
Yeah,
lot more
sure.
moments. I didn't have a lot of codec talks. So to me, the cutscenes were the meat and potatoes of this game, and there is too much Tata. There's too much Tato. It's just yeah.
I still, again, maybe in the grand scheme of like the 12 hours of cutscenes in this game, it's 30 minutes at most.
Dude,
At
this game is not.
most.
I beat this game in 9 hours.
I'm over
9 hours.
exaggerating.
There's
I'm
no
over
12 hours.
exaggerating for
I
effect.
know. Okay, it's not 50%, but it's too much. It's just like you talk about the cheese in the jar. This is the moldy stuff on the bottom that ruins the taste
Oh my
for
god.
me.
Okay.
Okay, I'm serious. Like I just wanted a clean spy game. I didn't sign up for this. I didn't want this.
You are.
It just wasn't. It wasn't there for me.
If you want a clean spy game, play Splinter Cell. You are not going to get a clean spy game with any of the Metal Gear Solids.
Hey,
It's
dude,
Kojima.
I'm not gonna look to me. Look, okay, this is a great game. I love the greater narrative of the game itself. Okay,
You're
it's
choking
the
on your
particulars
words.
that are bugging me
You're choking on your words.
because I'm about to say this in a Kojima game. Splinter Cell is the superior franchise to me.
Mm.
Oh my god.
Ah, yeah. See,
Oh.
that's what I'm sorry. That's why I was choking because I knew this is gonna be it. That's it. That's it for me. I grew up with Splinter Cell. It was the if you're gonna compare the two, yeah, I do prefer the Splinter Cell.
I don't compare them. A lot of people do.
I don't compare it either.
I don't compare them. Like they're just both spy games, but I think they play extremely differently. They have very different tones.
I agree. I agree.
I love them both, and like they reference each other quite often because I think they both appreciate each other, which is great. We've been going for a while. Let me ask you this, Mike, to sort of I wrap things up. And Simon, I kind of already know your answer to this question, and I'm so happy for it. Given the chance, would you play another Metal Gear Solid game, Mike? A different one.
Yeah, I said yeah. Yeah, I said yeah.
Which one do you think? Probably 5?
Well, next I'm gonna play 5. Yeah,
Okay.
and then I'll play 1. But here's a question for you. Something you asked me during Black Flag. Okay, because I was editing this and I paid particular attention and it hit me there. What does it say about Metal Gear Solid 3 that we can't talk about the game without talking about the whole franchise?
I think we could have. We just chose not to.
But
I
but it was just a question you asked me during Black Flag when we said the same thing, right?
Uh, yeah, I did ask you that, but I don't have a good answer. I don't know. It feels more applicable to Black Flag, or maybe I'm just biased, but me
A
personally,
little bit.
I can't talk about Metal Gear 3 without talking about the bigger picture. But I think of any of the games, 3 is the one that stands alone. It definitely could.
Look, story wise, I see why you say that because it is the one that starts the ball rolling. Like I didn't need to know about all the other snakes to have appreciation from this. You know what I mean? I didn't need to know that Ocelot eventually stops meowing and finally goes to being Adam again. Like all I mean to say is like I didn't need to know the bigger lore this all belongs to enjoy it. But I find that people can't talk about Metal Gear Solid ever as a standalone game. It only exists in the greater framework.
Is that like, are you saying that as a negative?
No, I don't think we said it as a negative during Black Flag either. I'm just saying it's that same tie-in I see between both of our episodes and both of the franchises we're talking about.
Okay. Let me ask you this, and then I'm going to ask you a question, Simon. Do you love this game, Mike? Would this make it into your top 50 even?
I like this game.
Okay. Are
I
you
don't love this game.
are you bummed you spent now like $100 on this game?
No, no, because at the end of the day, there's still things I can appreciate about. First off, Kojima as an imagination machine is brilliant. Like I'm not going to deny the fact that there's a lot of great elements and intricate gameplay. Like the parts that hit. Like I think I don't know if $90 maybe was too much for the satisfaction I got um,
Even for me.
fighting the Shagelhod because that's yeah that because it all this whole game builds to the juice of fighting the Shagelhod and then the boss fight after it with the shitty in between of having to carry Eva through these kind of pointless get through the jungle injured
It's
moments.
two screens, but anyway.
Yeah, it is quick. It is quick, but it is kind of pointless. It's kind of like, whoa, okay. You to give me to the boss fight, it almost would have been better. But
Because it is kind of funny how she like, you go through that epic bike chase, you crash, she gets stabbed through the gut. She's injured, you patch her up, she's like struggling to move for those two screens where you escort her. And then the cutscene happens where you're going to go fight the boss and she's like, "Okay, I'm going to go get the plane." And she's just like full sprint
yeah,
and okay, all of a sudden like that was a little silly, but
yeah,
I get your
yeah,
point.
yeah,
But also like why drag it
yeah,
out? But okay,
yeah. I
fair
mean,
enough.
look,
Fair enough.
there's a build up to get to the Shagelhod fight, and it's to me, it's one of those moments that I will remember as a definitive moment in video game history for me, as a call it a top 50 moment. The game as a whole to get to that point, I don't know if it's worth $90. I think it would have been worth $40 or $35.
I think that's fair.
Um, but Konami clearly just wants to make some money off of us here, and milk on the fact that they don't have Kojima anymore. But all this to say is that Kojima leaves a legacy and as a storyteller has a definitive voice that I can appreciate the same way I don't always like everything Quentin Tarantino does, but I accept that he has a very definitive voice and when it hits, it hits.
Mm-hmm.
And there's moments that Kojima definitely hits and hits hard, but it's not a long game. It's a deep game, but it's not a long game. And a lot of the length of this game comes from how much you want to sit there listening to your codec or going through cutscenes, because the actual gameplay itself is if you start going through all these intricate things you guys have talked about, like being in a box and having secret conversations and all this stuff and all these little hidden parts, like yeah, cool, but the actual story game itself is very short and small. Like you can get through it in, like you said, 5 hours, 4 or 5 hours. It's not a long game. It doesn't have to be a long game. So I don't know if it's worth $90. And it's I might be, I don't know if it's in my top 50. It might be right about there on the cusp, but I very, very much enjoyed this game and I would recommend it to anybody, maybe not for $90.
Fair enough. And Simon, maybe just because you're my boy, and I'm so proud of you for falling in love with this series and following, going in head first, diving into the pool of Kojima craziness. What moment, if there is one specifically, did you finally go like, okay, like I'm in, I love this, I'm fully on board? What's sold you on Metal Gear? Metal Gear.
Um, well, controls wise and gameplay wise, it was the fight with the end where I decided, okay, like I can put a lot of time into this and get very comfortable and good with this. The anxiety's gone. But in terms of like the story and being like, okay, am I gonna really like give an honest, earnest look into the world of Metal Gear? I think it was the first cutscene with Mike's favorite Eva, actually, where she fails to give the password, and then she kills all the dudes holding her gun sideways,
Yeah.
right? And so this comment Snake makes afterwards is saying like, "Oh, it was really cool the way you held the guns horizontally in order to use the muzzle flat or muzzle recoil to be able to shoot to the next target." And then she gives him a gun and he goes into this absurd amount of detail
Yeah.
about like the beauty of the gun and how specifically it's tailored and made and how he has all the abilities to now be able to fight in close quarters combat with both his knife and his pistol, and the like attention to detail while at the same time she hits on him, and he turns to her like having never met her, and he just looks at her and says, "I don't trust anyone," and then moves on. And then she says, "You need a nap," and then he says, "Okay," and she goes and sleeps for whatever time in the morning. Like the weird juxtaposition between like I'm playing for about an hour and a half in what seems like a really serious, anxious, kind of scary looking stealth game to find this what I think is like a nuclear ending type fight of this story, and then it turns into like this weird side tangent where he goes into absurd amount of detail over the tiniest little element that just kind of made me chuckle and laugh. It just like hit on me of like, okay, this is the kind of cheese that I'm looking for in a game. And that's yeah. From there on, I was invested in seeing what he had to say about it. Whether it was going to be good or not, I don't know. And I still have questions after the game's done as to whether all of this turns into some weird cohesive universe or not. But I had a ton of fun playing it, enough to go and play number two, and I loved number two as well. And
Yes.
it is one of those like weird gaming, I don't know, big shadows, big blind spots that I had for a very long time, and I'm so very glad to have been like exposed to it, and I hope to keep going with it.
When you wake up from that scene, is she not
Yeah.
unnecessarily naked?
No.
She's like calling in on the radio and kind
No,
of
no,
gives you a
no. But that
hint
was one of the
that
first time you get
something's off.
the cleavage thing. I'm pretty sure she pulls down her whole top part because that's the first
That's like the
cleavage
whole
shot.
game. Yeah, that's like the whole
I
game. Every
know,
time she
but
sees you,
these
she takes down her. She's purposely trying to win you over and seduce you as part of her mission. It's not that she's just wants to
she
jump your
wants Steve over.
bones and she's so into it immediately. Part of her mission is she is trying to seduce you and actually get it so that she can trick you into doing what she needs you to do in order to get it forward with her mission about the philosopher's fund. What's it called? The philosopher's
Philosopher's Legacy.
legacy. Yeah, legacy.
The Philosopher's
That
Stone.
was going to be such a beautiful outro, Mike. Simon, going into all this detail about why he likes Metal Gear. Then you got to bring up Ava's boobs again. I think you're obsessed with them. You're obsessed with her boobs, not us.
Well, Steve, but this is I want to end on you because you were the Kojima boy. You have always been the
Mhm.
Kojima boy out of us. Like, why is this the GOAT?
For me, it's not the GOAT. 4 is the GOAT. But this is just the Metal Gear series consistently has always been ahead of the curve in terms of doing different things in gameplay, making video games more cinematic, presenting a much more complex, sometimes very convoluted story than any other game around that time. And I'm a sci-fi nerd. There's a lot of science fiction in this with the walking tanks and cyber ninjas and optical camouflage and nanomachines later on. Like I gobble this stuff up, so it's almost made for a dorky guy like me. But to keep getting all of these layers added onto it with number one and then number two, and you have more questions, and the ending of number two, who they're talking about is kind of revealed in number three, and it's just like this 15-year journey of finally at the end of number four, like getting the answers and having the resolution to all of these plot points. Like it was awesome for me. I love it, and the gameplay is great. Like again, Kojima is always trying new things, and none of them
Yeah.
played the same, or they always introduced new mechanics. It was never stagnant. And to be a part of that in real time was just, it was something special. Like I'm super stoked that Simon's into it now. Going back and playing them and then still enjoying them, I think is great. Playing Delta is a really great jumping off point, I think, for anybody that's interested. Again, I agree with you, not for $90. I think that's, or $95 for Canadian, whatever it is. That's too steep. But once this goes on sale, if it ever does, definitely probably the best way to jump into Metal Gear Solid. And I don't think you'll be disappointed. There. You happy? Was that
Excellent.
enough? Okay.
Yeah,
There we go.
I'm not disappointed. It was still a great time. It was a fun ride.
You mean when you were riding Eva after the mission?
See, I didn't go there. I didn't go there. All this to say, it's still a very fun ride. Thank you, Kojima.
Thank you, Kojima. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Simon, for joining us on this one. It was nice to have somebody in my corner on this masterclass of writing and gameplay and femme fatales and tropes. So thank you. I appreciate you guys' time. Love you both. And until the next one.
Love you too.
Bye.
Bye.
As always, a special thanks to Aaron Rastovic for the sweet beats.
Fantastic.
Great game.
That was a great game. One of the greats.
Great.